मुझे भी ट्रेन पर बैठना है। अरे माई रे, ये ट्रेन तो रुक ही नहीं रही है। ट्रेन की लाइन पर से हट जाती हूँ।
अरे बाप रे, वो औरत ट्रेन की लाइन पर क्यों खड़ी है? अरे वो औरत हट जा ट्रेन की लाइन पर से।
अरे माई रे, मेरा पैर तो फंस गया है ट्रेन की लाइन में और ट्रेन भी पास आ गई है।
ट्रेन आ रही है, अब वो औरत नहीं बचने वाली। मैं नहीं देख पाऊंगा उसको ट्रेन से ठोकर लगते हुए।
नहीं। क्या बात है चिंटू, देखो घर कितना सुंदर लग रहा है। अब हम मम्मी को उनके बर्थडे का सरप्राइज देंगे। डीजे और गुब्बारा तो लग गया बाबू, बस केक ही बाकी है जो चिंकिया लेकर आती ही होगी। केक आ जाएगा तो फिर हम सब मिलकर मम्मी का बर्थडे मनाएंगे। मम्मी जैसे ही केक काटेगी मैं ये सब गुब्बारे फोड़ दूंगा। मैं भी गुब्बारा फोड़ूंगा, बड़ा मजा आएगा बाबू। चल चिंटू, मम्मी का आँख बंद करके लाते हैं और मम्मी को बर्थडे का सरप्राइज देंगे। हाँ जल्दी चल बाबू।
अरे वो लड़की केक लेकर कहाँ भाग गई? कहीं दिख ही नहीं रही है यहाँ।
यहाँ इस पाइप के अंदर वो बंदर मुझे नहीं ढूंढ पाएगा।
मुझे केक की महक यही कहीं से आ रही है। लगता है वो लड़की केक लेकर यही कहीं छुपी हुई है।
अरे बाप रे, ये केक तो पिघलने लगा। अगर मैं ज्यादा देर तक इसी पाइप में रही तो ये पूरा केक पिघल जाएगा। तो फिर मम्मी का बर्थडे कैसे मनाएंगे हम?
लगता है लड़की केक लेकर उस पाइप में छुपी हुई है। चलकर देखता हूँ पाइप में।
अब जल्दी इस केक को लेकर मुझे घर भागना पड़ेगा।
अब मैं उस केक को खाकर ही मानूंगा। पकड़ लिया। अरे वो लड़की तो केक लेकर भागने लगी। अबे वो लड़की, वो केक मुझे दे दे।
मम्मी मम्मी, कहाँ हो मम्मी? मम्मी कहाँ चली गई मम्मी आप? चिंटू, हम दोनों ने मम्मी को बहुत ढूंढ लिया लेकिन वो मिल नहीं रही। कहीं मम्मी घर छोड़कर भाग तो नहीं गई? हमने पूरे गांव में मम्मी को ढूंढ लिया। चल बाबू, अब वहाँ ट्रेन स्टेशन की तरफ ढूंढते हैं। बस वही बाकी रह गया है ढूंढना। हाँ जल्दी चल चिंटू। अरे चिंटू, जल्दी वहाँ देख। वहाँ पर एक औरत सोई हुई है और उसके पास एक गिद्ध बैठा हुआ है। लगता है वो औरत टे बोल गई है। चल पास से चलकर देखते हैं बाबू। हाँ हाँ जल्दी चल, नहीं तो वो गिद्ध उस औरत को काट लेगा। अरे चिंटुआ, ये तो अपनी मम्मी है रे। लेकिन हमारी मम्मी को क्या हो गया? ये यहाँ पर बेहोश क्यों पड़ी हुई है बाबू? कहीं मम्मी को ट्रेन से ठोकर तो नहीं लग गया चिंटुआ? देख, ट्रेन की लाइन भी यही है। नहीं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता। अरे रो मत रे चिंटुआ, जल्दी मम्मी को उठा लेकर हॉस्पिटल चलते हैं, उस बूढ़े डॉक्टर के पास। हाँ जल्दी उठाओ मम्मी को बाबू। चल अब चिंटुआ। मम्मी आपको कुछ नहीं होगा, हम आपको बचा लेंगे। पकाना बंद कर, जल्दी दौड़ के चल डॉक्टर के पास।
अब कहाँ बच के जाएगी तू लड़की? चल वो बड़ा वाला केक मुझे दे दे।
नहीं नहीं, ये केक मैं अपने मम्मी के बर्थडे के लिए खरीद कर लाई हूँ। इसे मैं तुम्हें नहीं दूंगी।
दे दे, नहीं तो काट लूंगा। मुझे बहुत तेज भूख लगी है। वो केक तो आज मैं खा कर ही रहूंगा।
नहीं दूंगी। इस केक को काट कर मम्मी अपना बर्थडे मनाएगी।
नहीं देगी केक तो फिर मैं तुझे काटूंगा।
क्या? और कितना दूर है हॉस्पिटल चिंटू? देख बाबू, वो रहा हॉस्पिटल। जल्दी दौड़ के चल वहाँ। डॉक्टर डॉक्टर, कहाँ हो? जल्दी आओ।
बोलो क्या हो गया? क्यों चिल्ला रहे हो लड़कों?
डॉक्टर साहब, जल्दी मेरी मम्मी को बचा लीजिए। पता नहीं क्या हो गया है मम्मी को।
जल्दी जल्दी इन्हें इस बेड पर रखो, मैं जल्दी से इंजेक्शन लगा देता हूँ।
There is a curious paradox many of us live with. Abundance bears our name, yet our hands feel empty. Opportunities circulate. Resources are allocated. Doors are labeled for us. Still we stand outside wondering why what is meant for us seems withheld. This is not merely a financial puzzle. It is a spiritual one. For the universe is never stingy, never confused, and never late. When funds are issued in your name yet out of your reach, it is not because supply has failed, but because alignment has been misplaced. Life is governed by law, and law is exact. Nothing arrives by accident, and nothing is denied without reason. What you are ready to receive moves toward you with certainty, like a letter finding its address. If it appears delayed, it is only circling, awaiting the moment when belief, expectation, and inner consent open the door. Many people unknowingly cancel their own good with fear-filled words, doubtful thoughts, and the silent assumption that blessing is for others, not for them. They sign for lack, while abundance waits patiently in their name. The unseen world responds to clarity. When the mind is divided, hoping with one breath and doubting with the next, results hover in limbo. Funds remain allocated but unclaimed. The outer situation mirrors the inner verdict. If you decree delay, delay obeys. If you expect struggle, struggle becomes the messenger. But when you speak with authority, when you accept without apology, that provision is your natural state. The channels rearrange themselves with surprising speed. There is a difference between wishing and receiving. Wishing is weak. Receiving is an act of faith. To receive, one must first make room. Old stories of scarcity must be dismissed like trespassers. You cannot clutch yesterday's disappointments and expect today's supply to sit beside them. The mind must be swept clean, prepared as a welcoming house. Then what has been held in suspense steps forward, recognized at last. Often what seems out of reach is only out of agreement. The universe does not test you, it reflects you. If you see yourself as overlooked, life will echo that belief. If you see yourself as divinely supported, support appears in forms both expected and astonishing. Funds, help, ideas, and connections move through people and systems, but their true source is higher than any institution. When you acknowledge that source, intermediaries lose their power to intimidate or delay. So the question is not why is this withheld from me, but rather what am I declaring to be true? For every word is a seed, and every belief is a command. A music, when your inner language changes, outer permissions follow. What bears your name recognizes your voice. What is weighted steps closer, and what once music felt distant begins to respond, not as a miracle, but as the natural order restored. Abundance is never denied, only delayed by misalignment, and this truth reshapes the way one interprets every apparent lack. What seems like refusal is often a pause, and what feels like absence is frequently a signal that something within must be adjusted before the flow can resume. Life does not tease or torment, it follows principle. Supply exists as a constant, as reliable as light behind a closed curtain. When the curtain remains drawn, it is not because the sun has vanished, but because the hand has not yet reached to open it. Misalignment does not imply unworthiness. It is not a moral judgment or a punishment imposed by an unseen power. It is simply a state in which thought, feeling, and expectation are not in harmony with the good they seek to experience. Many believe they are ready for abundance, while secretly rehearsing thoughts of loss, limitation, or disappointment. These quiet rehearsals act like counter-orders, confusing the channels through which good arrives. The outer world, obedient and precise, reflects the stronger signal. Delay often appears most sharply when desire is mixed with fear. A person may ask for prosperity, while bracing for disappointment, watching for signs of failure or comparing themselves unfavorably to others. In doing so, they divide their own command. Abundance moves in response to clarity, not longing. It answers decisiveness, not pleading. When the inner voice says, I hope instead of, I accept, the response hesitates, waiting for authority to replace uncertainty. There is also misalignment in timing. The mind may insist on immediate results, while the deeper intelligence of life is arranging circumstances, relationships and opportunities in an order that ensures stability rather than collapse. A sudden inflow received without readiness can become a burden rather than a blessing. Therefore, what feels like delay may be protection. a careful calibration, so that when abundance arrives, it stays. Alignment includes patience not as resignation, but as trust in intelligent order. Words play a powerful role in either correcting or prolonging misalignment. Casual statements such as "money never lasts," "opportunities are rare," or "it's hard for people like me" may be spoken lightly, yet they carry weight. Spoken repeatedly, music, they form an atmosphere in which abundance struggles to breathe. Alignment begins when speech is brought into agreement with intention. When words are chosen as architects, music, rather than as habits. A person aligned with abundance speaks of provision as natural, music of support as expected, of success as orderly. Emotional alignment matters as much as mental alignment. Resentment toward those who have more, guilt about wanting more, or fear of being judged for having more can all slow the movement of supply. These emotions act like internal barriers, signaling that abundance would create conflict rather than peace. Life responds by waiting. When desire is purified of bitterness and guilt, when one can bless the prosperity of others sincerely, alignment strengthens and delay dissolves. Another form of misalignment appears when identity is rooted in struggle. Some unconsciously define themselves by endurance, sacrifice, or survival. Abundance to such an identity feels unfamiliar and even threatening. If struggle is who one believes they are, ease becomes foreign territory. The delay persists until identity shifts, until one permits themselves to be someone for whom things can work smoothly, someone who does not have to earn rest through exhaustion. Trust is the quiet center of alignment, not blind optimism, but steady expectation. Trust says that the path may be unseen, but the destination is secure. Without trust, every pause feels like rejection. With trust, pauses are interpreted as movement happening behind the scenes. The same circumstances produce vastly different inner responses, depending on whether trust is present. One response tightens the delay, the other loosens it. Action taken from misalignment also prolongs delay. Effort driven by panic, comparison, or desperation often scatters energy instead of focusing it. Such action feels heavy and produces little return. Aligned action, by contrast, feels clear and timely. It may be simple, even small, yet it carries momentum. Abundance responds not to busyness, but to coherence. When thought, emotion, and action point in the same direction, results accelerate. Misalignment can also arise from clinging to a single form. One may decide exactly how abundance must arrive and reject all other avenues. Life, however, is inventive. Supply may approach through an unexpected offer, a new idea, a changed role, or an unplanned connection. When the mind insists on only one door, it may stand waiting while many other doors quietly open and close. Flexibility restores alignment by allowing intelligence greater freedom of movement. Faith in its practical sense is alignment sustained over time. It is the decision to remain internally settled even when evidence has not yet caught up. Faith does not argue with appearances, it simply refuses to let them dictate belief. This refusal music is not denial, but selection. One selects the invisible cause over the visible effect, knowing that effects must eventually music conform. As alignment deepens, signs often appear before full music manifestation. Small improvements, helpful conversations, sudden insights, or partial resources emerge as indicators that the current is flowing again. These signs are not the final gift, but confirmations that delay is dissolving. Recognizing them with gratitude rather than impatience further refines alignment. Abundance once aligned moves with surprising ease. What required strain before now unfolds with cooperation. The same world, the same systems, the same people begin to respond differently. Not because they have changed, but because the signal they receive has changed. Alignment does not force outcomes. It invites them. The idea that abundance is denied breeds frustration and self-blame. The understanding that it is delayed by misalignment restores power. It places responsibility not as burden but as opportunity. Alignment is adjustable. Thoughts can be chosen. Words can be corrected. Emotions can be softened. Expectations can be elevated. Nothing external must be defeated. Only internal coherence must be established. And as that coherence stabilizes, what was once postponed begins to advance. Sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically, always with the sense of inevitability that belongs to things that were never meant to be lost. Only waiting for recognition, agreement, and readiness to meet them where they stand. Already complete, already prepared, already moving toward the moment when resistance fades, and the channel opens enough for supply to pass through, without distortion or delay. Answering not effort but alignment itself, which once restored continues to expand into areas previously untouched, carrying with it not only material increase, but a deeper assurance that life responds faithfully to the inner state, and that every pause, every gap, every apparent withholding has been a conversation pointing back to the same principle, asking only for harmony before release, coherence before contact, inner order before outer confirmation, and a willingness to stand in agreement with good even before it becomes visible in form, knowing that visibility is not the cause, but the consequence of alignment maintained long enough to allow what has always been present to finally step forward into experience as something lived rather than hoped for, something claimed rather than requested, something recognized as natural rather than exceptional, moving steadily from the unseen into the seen as the inner atmosphere continues to support it without contradiction, hesitation, or retreat, allowing abundance to complete the journey it has never stopped attempting to make toward expression in the open field of daily life where it belongs, waiting only for the alignment that makes its arrival unavoidable. What carries your name responds to your belief, because belief is recognition and recognition is permission. Nothing that belongs to you is confused about ownership. It waits only for acknowledgement. Life does not argue with titles, labels, or intentions spoken without conviction. It answers identity. When something bears your name, it is already assigned, already designated, already prepared to move into your experience. But it listens closely to how you see yourself before it crosses the threshold. Belief is not mere opinion. It is the atmosphere you live in. It is the silent assumption running beneath thought, word, and action. You may verbally claim something while inwardly doubting your right to it, and that inward verdict will outweigh every spoken affirmation. What carries your name does not respond to hope alone. It responds to expectation. Expectation is belief in motion. Where expectation is weak, movement is slow. Where expectation is steady, pathways organize themselves without struggle. Many people unknowingly believe they are exceptions to good. They see abundance, success, or support working effortlessly for others, and conclude that they themselves must be overlooked. This belief is rarely spoken aloud, but it is rehearsed internally through comparison and quiet resignation. When belief whispers, "Not for me," what bears your name hesitates as though knocking on a door that never opens. Ownership without acceptance creates suspension. Belief also shapes visibility. Opportunities, resources, and connections can pass directly through a person's life unnoticed if belief does not prepare the mind to recognize them. Two people may stand in the same circumstance. One sees a dead end. The other sees a doorway. The difference is not intelligence or luck but belief. What carries your name may arrive disguised, indirect or unconventional. If belief is rigid or narrow, it will be dismissed before it can announce itself. In music, there is a belief that receiving requires struggle, proof, or suffering. In music, this belief burdens what belongs to you with unnecessary conditions. Instead of flowing, it must fight its way in. Life responds in music faithfully to this expectation and delivers through hardship, delay, or complexity, not as punishment, but as agreement. When belief changes, the manner of arrival changes with it. Ease is not withheld. It is invited or rejected internally. Belief is also shaped by language, learned early and repeated often. Statements heard in childhood about money, success, worth, or limitation sink deep and operate long after they are forgotten. These inherited beliefs may contradict conscious desires. A person may desire prosperity while believing at a deeper level that prosperity leads to loss, conflict, or isolation. What carries their name senses this conflict and waits, unwilling to arrive where it is not truly welcome. Faith in oneself is not arrogance. It is alignment with function. A seed does not doubt its right to grow. It responds automatically to soil, water, and light. In the same way, what bears your name responds to belief, because belief is the soil. Without fertile soil, nothing germinates, no matter how perfect the seed. Doubt hardens the ground. Trust softens it. Belief does not require constant effort, but it does require consistency. Occasional confidence interrupted by habitual worry sends mixed signals. Life responds to the dominant tone. If fear is revisited daily and trust only occasionally, fear becomes the instruction. What carries your name? Pause. Waiting for clarity. This waiting is not abandonment. It is precision. There is also belief about timing. Some believe they are always late, always behind, always catching up. This belief influences how opportunities unfold. Things arrive rushed, last minute, or already compromised. When belief shifts to a sense of right timing, experiences reorganize. What carries your name adjusts its pace to match your expectation, arriving neither too early nor too late, but in rhythm.